owl watched from its perch atop the baker's roof, golden eyes unblinking against the dark night sky, the shining orbs fixed on him. He tore his gaze from the bird and walked on, moving away from the firelight and into shadow. Even more worrisome than Bryce was the fact that Thomas had given Callum his most treasured item earlier that night, his notebook, small sheaths of vellum bound in leather. When he first began carrying it around, Thomas claimed to have stolen it from the apothecary when he went in for a poultice. He had kept it on him, always, and had never let Callum lay eyes on what was inside. Yet he had pressed it into Callum's hand, just before the match tonight. He said something to Callum when he did, but his words were inaudible within the roar of the pub. Then, after, he disappeared from the pub without even a goodbye. Now Callum was wandering the streets, alone. It was unlike Thomas to behave so strangely, to lose so badly. The Thomas he knew, boyish and rowdy, tough as leather, but never mean, had fallen away with the autumn leaves these past months. Instead of spending evenings at the Black Hart Inn, weaving stories he'd learned as a child of selkies and sailors for red-cheeked barmaids until the sun rose, Thomas began to disappear for days, weeks at a time. Stretches too long for Callum to explain to Bryce. He took a beating or two for it too. When Thomas returned, he was sullen, sometimes violent, and consumed by a strangeness Callum had no words to describe. His eyes stared, but did not see, as distant as stars burning in his skull. If he spoke at all, he told tales of the demons that terrified them as children, like the slug, spirits of the dead who wandered in flocks, flying around the sky like soaring reapers and stealing souls, flesh hanging off them like blackened rags. Or the Bin Nia, banshees, messengers from the other world and omens of death, who lingered in lonely streams, washing the clothes of doomed men. Normally, Callum heard of such dark creatures within the stories of heroes, but Thomas's stories didn't end in life, but death. He fixated on that fact, as if it were coming for him. "I saw her," he'd said of the Bin Nia. "I refuse to die." It worried Callum, but just as his worry morphed into confrontation, Thomas would come back to himself. This was enough to comfort Callum as he watched Thomas return to tales of ancient heroes and kings. Maybe he accepted his relief too soon, since the nights of those stories were fewer these days, and more often Thomas's speech would turn dark again. He would speak of strange visions, of men who leaped from one world to the next. "They're coming, Cal. You'll see. It's as simple as stepping through a veil." "Who's coming, Thomas?" "What veil?" Callum asked, and Thomas would laugh. It was no tale that Callum knew. He'd warned Thomas not to tell it. He didn't like the wary looks it earned him. It was one thing to be a bard who told these stories for a living, but it was another thing to speak like a madman of evil spirits and fairies as if they were tangible things away from the lyrics of a song or the pages of a book. Callum reached the end of the main road, the turn for Kelpie's Close. If you wanted trouble, you found it in Kelpie's. The narrow back street edged Rosemere like a blade pressed against the town's throat. A chill clung to his skin. Here, there were no lanterns to light the way. His only guide, sparse slivers of moonlight. The wind picked up suddenly, lifting his hair and reaching under his woolen cloak. He tried to shake off visions of the slug hovering above him, raking their cold fingers down his neck.